Now I should comment that a lot of this commentary, especially down here, is closely related to problem 3 on the 18018 document. This is related to number 4 on the same document. Now, if we have 3 values of, a table with values of t and y at 3 different points, we can get our y equals at squared plus bt plus c model, plugging the coordinates of the first point in, we get one equation. Plugging the coordinates of the second, we get another equation. And from the third, we get a third equation in A, B, and C, and we solve that for A, B, and C. So the ... means that that's what you do. And that's what you do need to do in number 4. Now I want to illustrate how you can answer some of the questions that follow on number 4. So I'm going to say, well, the model we get isn't negative 0.02 t squared plus 1.3 t plus 120. It's going to be a function of this nature. And that's a quadratic function, obviously, because this is the form of a quadratic. If we evaluated, or if we solve the 3 equations that we get by plugging these points in for A, B, and C, we'll get 3 numbers. Like A would be maybe negative 0.02, B would be 1.3, C would be 120. Now actually for these 3 points, C would be 120, but A and B wouldn't be the numbers that we have down here. But let's pretend that this is the right model and see how we would answer some of the questions. Okay, the first question is, if the time is 50, what's the depth? Well, if time is 50, then we're going to plug 50 in for time. So if this is our model, and here it is again, time is 50, so t squared will be 50 squared, t will be 50, and the 120 will be 120, and that's going to equal whatever it equals, and you're going to be able to calculate that. And of course, you're welcome to use your calculator to do this. You shouldn't need it for a lot of the calculations, but for some of them you probably will. Okay, now, another question. What if the depth is negative 30? When is the depth negative 30? Okay, well, if the depth is negative 30, then y is negative 30, and this equality becomes negative 30 equals negative 0.02 t squared plus 1.3 t plus 120. Now, we go back to recognizing what kind of equation this is. This is a quadratic equation. It isn't in the standard form of a quadratic, which would be at squared plus bt plus c equals 0. But it can be easily put into that form. We just add 30 to both sides and we get this. And that's very straightforward. You should understand that. If not, you can ask. So the quadratic formula says that at squared plus bt plus c is 0 if and only if t is equal to this expression that I'm not going to read to you. We did this last time. So we identify A, B, and C. A is negative 0.02, B is 1.3, C is 150. We put those into the formula. Here they are. And we evaluate this. And again, I'm assuming that you will have no trouble evaluating that. And of course, you would use a calculator to do a lot of this.